Welcome.
On a mission to eliminate racism, empower women, and promote peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. This is the YWCA Hour with your hosts, YWCA Executive Director Karen Bell Dancy and YWCA Associate Director Maisha Essex. Welcome in to the YWCA Hour.
Welcome back to the W with Karen Bell Dancy and Maisha Essex. This is the YWCA Lincoln's effort in bringing community conversations and topics of interest to you. This month, the month of October, many of you may know, but some may not, this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And here in our community, we have several community partners that we personally work with that identify with the topic of domestic violence. Our goal here in the community is that everyone feel safe, they feel that they have the opportunity to be successful. And so there are several resources that we want to make you aware of if there are those in the community that have trouble feeling safety. Today with us, we have Natalie Roberts-Day. She is the executive director, of Voices of Hope, one of those resources. Welcome, Natalie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So for people who do not know about your organization, can you just tell us a little bit more?
Yes. So we are a community-based organization that supports individuals and families who've experienced domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, stalking, and other forms of abuse. And we do that through a range of services, including a 24-hour crisis line, 24-hour response to law enforcement and the local hospitals, court accompaniment. We're on campuses. We do a lot of prevention work. We're partnered with Lincoln Public Schools to do healthy relationship support groups. We are out doing a lot of kind of professional partner training and helping to improve systems so that we can both support survivors and also work to end abuse in all of its forms. And we also partner heavily with Friendship Home, which is the shelter-based component of domestic violence services. And so together we kind of support the continuum throughout the person who might have been harm's life. So whether that is that immediate, safety planning relating to fleeing and, finding shelter, things like that, or whether that is coming to one of our support groups or calling our crisis line 20 years down the line because something reminded them of something that had happened in the past. We kind of are here for it all.
Wow.
A couple of those resources, because that was just like the overview of it, but a couple of those resources really stood out to me. So with YWCA, we have, a whole youth development department. And I heard you say that you all have programming partnered with LPS to talk about healthy relationships. Can you tell us a little bit more about that program or curriculums or some of the things that you all talk about?
Yeah, so we actually do a range of groups. So we're in all of the Lincoln high schools right now. And those groups are kind of on a first come, first serve basis for whenever the social workers have identified a large enough group. And some of those groups are for individuals who maybe have experienced violence, have been exposed to violence, or just are at risk. Maybe the social worker or the family is concerned about patterns that they're seeing emerging in their dating relationships. Sometimes it is youth who are interested in being bystanders and they want to help and they want to make a difference. And so giving them the tools and resources to be able to be peer supports. And we also partner with Diversion to work one-on-one with individuals who might both be involved in systems in other ways, but also might have, again, experienced or be experiencing domestic violence. So we have a range of ways that we support individuals, but we have everything from kind of understanding technology facilitated abuse, understanding the ways that power and control dynamics show up, especially in teen relationships. What does that look like? Understanding red flags like a large age gap or really, intense jealous behaviors or moving really quickly. All of those things that hopefully help just equip youth with a few more tools in their toolbox to be able to identify a concerning behavior in themselves, in others, in friends that they are seeing, and then give them the resources with what to do next with that.
That's awesome because you're shining a light on domestic violence the way most people think of it is just one kind of violence and abuse. So you're really helping to expose that one could be experiencing a domestic violence situation, but have not identified it as such.
Right.
Yeah, and then in the school setting at that, because a lot of people do not think that that's where that's starting, or that they are
Right.
experiencing, or that students experience this, right?
True.
Or we chalk it up to. I know one thing that I keep trying to, when like my family or my friends say this about either their either children or cousins or people that they know that go to school, right? And they come home and they say, "Oh, this boy was hitting me," and one, "Oh, he must like you."
Mhm.
That's what I said. If he likes you,
a lot.
then we should be. That's not how we showcase that we like someone.
Right.
And even that messaging that we get starting so young, that this is somehow like being hit and being bullied, and that's an okay way to express one's like to another person, especially when it's, to a female, from a male to a female. And that's what that is. That's all that is that they like. And so having these conversations this young, so that you can identify at a very young age what some of those flags are, because I've seen it. I've seen it in well, I was working at a middle school and had to have a conversation about what this looks like, that this is not, okay, that this is controlling, that this temper is not something that should be accepted, or this anger is not something that you have to take on because you're in a relationship with someone. And so it's just really, really good that you all are starting this conversation and you're making it aware that it happens.
Exactly.
This is where we're starting to learn that this is okay behavior, and it's not.
Absolutely. And I think that's something, I'm so glad you brought up the fact that this is kind of, I think something that as adults, we're not as comfortable recognizing.
True.
The teen relationships, middle school relationships are real relationships, and they might be experiencing these feelings for the first time, but they are practicing the patterns of behavior that are going to stick with them throughout their life. And I think it's also really important to know that while there is a high percentage of individuals who might experience harm over the course of their youth, only about a third of youth who have experienced intimate partner violence ever tell anyone about it. Not a peer, not a counselor, not a parent. Yeah, so 2/3 are navigating these complicated issues alone. And I think some of that, to Maisha's point of how that shows up when we are talking to kids when they're young, it's not just, oh, he hits you, that means he likes you. It's also, oh, you can't be friends with that boy or that girl because you must have a crush on them, so don't talk to each other. And so even just how we think about relationships, rather than focusing on how do we treat one another with respect and kindness, oftentimes we sort of put our adult lens on kids' dynamics.
Yes.
And I think that also makes it really easy for us to miss concerning behaviors. So you mentioned the boy that hits you on the playground, but we know that especially when we're looking at dating violence and intimate partner violence in various forms, hitting is rarely the first sign of an abusive relationship. Often it is those manipulations, the blaming, that exactly trying to maintain that power and control through jealousy, guilt, put downs. And then it just tends to escalate from there when those controlling behaviors aren't as effective, or when they feel threatened or like their partner might leave them. Then we see, increasing violence and increasing concerns that are often really scary. And so trying to interrupt those patterns as early as we can. I mentioned that we're in the high schools. We're starting to get into a couple middle schools where they have identified exactly what you guys are saying.
Yes.
And if we had capacity, we would love to be hitting even younger.
Yes. Maisha and I both have worked in the middle school, and we have seen so much of this. And both ways.
Right.
Both ways.
Female,
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to ask, especially with your work with the diversion program. Are you serving just females with the referrals, or you introducing this kind of awareness and education to young males as well?
We are serving all genders. So some
Okay.
of our groups are specifically for male identifying individuals.
Okay.
Some of them, like I said, working one-on-one. Some are specifically for female identifying individuals.
Okay.
But whatever kind of makeup of the group, the facilitator is working with the social worker. So it's co-facilitated. So that
Okay.
social worker is building those relationships and also building up their knowledge of how to intervene.
Yes.
And so our staff are there to kind of guide the conversation based on what we know and what we're hearing from the youth. But it's really the youth teaching one another. And I think that's really important for that buy-in. And hopefully that is something that we can see shift some of these cultural attitudes that are concerning.
Right.
And it is. You talked, it was this with the peer-to-peer support. And again, we know how important that is because we know that there can be a disconnect between different generations, right? And what we see now as an issue versus what, was an issue back then. You brought in the piece about technology, right?
Yes,
and how that's such a big component right now in regards to abuse, right? And how that plays out. And so that's different than other generations, right? And so you may not think that somebody else would fully understand versus a peer who is equipped to have that, conversation. And I think with that, it's also good for us as adults not to kind of reflect what we think is right based on what we did and what we know and what we were taught, because a lot of times we weren't taught right either. And you said it when you talked about the people who say if that's a boy or if that person's of a certain gender and you have a crush on them, you can't interact. That already sets the stage for secrecy. Right. And not telling, right? Because that's what we were taught, right? When I was younger and I said anything about a boy, you bet there was no conversation. It was just a no. Like, you know what I mean? It was just a no. Ain't no boy, it's nothing, right? And a lot of my family, a lot of my cousins and all them, we got the same messaging. Did it stop anything? No. All it did was promote all this unhealthy behavior happening in secrecy.
Right. And that's where I think that 2/3 of kids are navigating this without any support. It's not surprising when we are telling them, don't let us know what's happening versus saying, hey, it seems like you really like this person. What do you like about them? How do they treat you? And how do you feel about that? Right? Like engaging kids in critical thinking helps them identify for themselves rather than have to be lectured. And it also makes it so that if they get into a bad situation down the line, they know that they can talk to you about it. And that's so important because abuse thrives in isolation. And that is a tactic that abusers will use to, again, maintain that power and control. Right. And so anything that you can do to give anyone who is experiencing abuse voice and choice and power back into their lives, that really is more protective than I think we realize. And that includes, I'm going to make a really unpopular statement here about technology, but when we're thinking about what are we teaching kids about technology and what didn't we have to navigate? So I am of the generation where cell phones were just becoming a thing. But until I was like 17 and had to pick up my little sister from daycare, I would tell my mom where I was going and she would trust that I would be there. And if I didn't come home at a certain time, I would be in trouble. And that was the dynamic. And I understand that there were risks that I could have gone and done something bad. I honestly think that if my parents had been able to track me, I probably would have done the same amount of bad or good. I just would have been more clever about it. But I do think that we are in an era where we are normalizing for our kids constantly tracking them, checking in constantly and knowing where they are constantly. And the world is both safer and much less safe than I think we realize. I think that we worry a lot about the stranger danger, but that's a very statistically unlikely concern. It is the neighbor, the friend, the older boyfriend, whatever it might be that we are not catching. And we're not catching it in part because we are teaching our kids that we don't trust them and that the world's not safe. So then they don't have a good filter for, is it safe? And also that makes it feel really normal when your boyfriend wants you to share your location and gets really jealous. Like a lot of teens feel like if you are not sharing your location with your partner, then you must be up to something sketchy. And that is not surprising given how parents are treating tracking technology.
Right.
And I'm not saying don't track your kids. I'm saying do have critical conversations with them
Yes.
about who and how they share location with and why you want them to share location with you and what are the limits of that. And let that be a dialogue. And I think that if we can empower youth to share what they are experiencing with us more, then we can have much more actual ability to shape what they're experiencing versus trying to strong will our desires on them.
Right.
That's a great way to say it. As you were talking and you just wrapped that up, I was thinking that, like, or you said that piece about empowering them to make these own decisions through critical thinking, so that they can actually understand. Because I've been told no a lot, but not the why behind it, right? And so then I go out and I try to find the why, because I don't know why you told me I could not do this, and so I still do it, right? And maybe find the why years later, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, but you never explained it. You just said no, right?
Yeah.
And so empowering me to be like, okay, well, here's some critical thinking. Let me ask you some questions so that you can think for yourself. Well, when I'm in that situation, I now can think for myself and ask these questions, because that's what I've been taught to do, to empower myself, is to think and ask these questions about how this connects with me, and being able to share, well, this is for your safety versus this is for control.
Right.
And what's the difference?
Yeah. And you know what's so scary, from that parental perspective, and all I say is thank God now mine are grown. But, parents not really understanding the tools, and just the way that you put that together is, I think, is really good in helping parents, because that was the question I was going to ask. How do you help parents recognize that it could be something dangerous happening, and what are some of the tools that they need to have in place so they can start to identify and address that, and from either having a daughter or a son or whichever.
Yeah, I think the conversations are important across the board. I think a lot of times we think about abuse prevention as teaching the victims how to identify those behaviors, rather than teaching people who would perpetrate harm alternative behaviors and giving them the supports and tools to make lasting change, which is very difficult. I'm not going to lie. Once patterns of behavior are established, they're really take a lot of both community and personal investments to make that change.
True.
And that's why I think it's so important that anything we can do to intervene early, even if it's those small interventions like apologizing to your kid if you lose your temper at them and yell at them. Like, nobody's perfect, but what do we do with that teaches our kids a lesson about what they can expect from future relationships. And also not treating dating relationships as some kind of like separate category, because someone who's a good friend to you is probably similarly going to be a good partner in dating things. If you are looking at, how do they treat me, and do they listen to me? Do they get my input? And if you as a caregiver are modeling getting input from your kids, then you don't have to tell them, hey, this is so that you can identify red and green flags when you're in a dating relationship, because first of all, they'll know to come talk to you about that.
Right.
Yeah. This is what they're used to.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. I used to work for a summer camp, and we did a lot to teach about youth protection and abuse prevention at camp. And one of the things we would talk a lot about is we don't do things like follow the rule of three, or not have one-on-one time, because we assume that there is someone here who is tricky and who has a desire to do harm. We can't know, so we need to have measures in place. But more importantly, we are teaching youth how it feels when adults with good intentions and healthy boundaries interact with them. And like you said, that hopefully if they get into a situation where there is a tricky adult who is trying to isolate them, trying to do things that just make them uncomfortable, that they're all their sensors go off and alarm bells ring, and they say this doesn't feel like what it has felt like in other spaces. And hopefully that helps them both identify that that change needs to happen for them. But even better, what if that meant that they were able to connect that other person with help and support, not necessarily through their actions, but through, reaching out to other caring adults, that school social worker or counselor.
Right.
Hey, here's what I have going on. It doesn't matter who that trusted adult is, as long as they have someone. And so teens aren't always going to, like, my teen doesn't want to talk to me about what's going on in their life.
Yeah.
But they know they can.
Yes.
And I know that they have other adults that they can lean on if they felt like I wouldn't be the right person. And I think that does more than we realize.
Well, and what you're saying in essence is that they've been empowered to have their voice and say their voice. And I think that's often missed. I know in my generation that really was, because this was more or less more of a taboo subject, and or it was all about stranger danger. It wasn't about someone that you could be familiar with could actually be a perpetrator and do harm.
Yeah.
So
it's really great, because it's kind of like the theory of change, right? If we're starting with students, and just, it's what I think, that upstream versus downstream, and where are we connecting? And while resources are needed at every single point, having this connection right here at the upstream and learning about it from the start, that will hopefully prevent a lot of things that we're seeing that happens downstream, that we have to have all these now reactive measures for instead of preventative. And so that's really cool that you all do it at that level. We do have, I think when we come back, we'll talk. I'm very interested in your partnership with Lincoln Police Department. I know we have a lot of people who are afraid to call the police because they don't know what's going to happen, or if support is really going to be given. And you all have a partnership. And so hopefully we can get a little bit more into that when we come back.
yes,
Great.
we'll take a break, think about the conversation we've had so far, and come back with us.
Harvest season is coming, and Acres has discounted many of our late model John Deere combines. Get thousands in discounts and upgrade for this year's harvest. Plus, you could save even more with interest rates starting as low as 1.9% on select units. Low interest rates combined with our huge discounts, there's not a better time to buy. Visit acres.com for all the details. That's AKRS.com. Restrictions apply. Offer ends August 31st, 2025. Subject to approved financing. Offer may change at any time without notice.
Hey fans, there's more winning at Amigos with the VIP Game Day giveaway. Every app scan is your chance to win premium tickets to a Nebraska football, basketball, and volleyball game, along with exclusive game day perks. And when Nebraska goes to a bowl, the winner also gets 2 tickets, lodging, and airfare to the bowl game. Weekly semifinalists will win free food for a year. Go Big Red. Eat at Amigos and enter to win.
Amigos is celebrating 45 years with exclusive Nebraska Legends collectible cups featuring Tom Osborne, John Cook, and some of your favorite Huskers. For every cup sold, 50 cents goes to teammates. Show your Big Red pride by getting all 4 of these collectible cups at Amigos.
This is Tom Osborne with the Teammates Mentoring Program. We have students on the waiting list for a mentor, and we want you to join the team. Learn more about mentoring and support teammates by visiting Amigos.
An overdose can happen in front of you and you might not realize it. Blue lips, slowed breathing, pinpoint pupils, choking sounds, unresponsive to touch or sounds. These signs aren't always obvious, but they can be deadly. Knowing what to do could save your friend, your neighbor, your child. Learn more by visiting myhealthymind.crediblemmind.com so you can be ready before it happens. This message is funded in part by the CDC OD2A grant.
This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at pahlincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, their passion, for happier, healthier, furry friends.
Limitless Male says, it's all fun and games until your testosterone plummets. Testosterone levels can start falling as early as age 30 with symptoms like no energy, poor sleep, brain fog, belly fat, muscle loss, and mood swings. If this sounds familiar, get your testosterone checked at Limitless Male. We'll get you back in the game with more strength, energy, and confidence. When you feel this good, you'll wonder why you waited so long to get a free consult at Limitless Male. Get scheduled today.
I'm Karen Carr. I've been a realtor for 31 years. When I made a company change 12 years ago, I chose Lincoln First Realty, now NP Dodge. It's the oldest independently owned realty company in the country. Since becoming NP Dodge, we've continued our tradition of community involvement. Our management and staff are always available to offer support in marketing, technology, social media, and educational opportunities.
Expand your career with NP Dodge. Call Eric at 402-434-2222.
Are you looking to upgrade or improve the garage door on your home? This is Cameron Hall of Doors Plus. At Doors Plus, we guarantee to offer a wide selection of options from 5 leading garage door manufacturers as we deliver a free estimate, exact measurements, and rapid installation with a 3 to 5 week time frame. When you choose Doors Plus for your residential garage door needs, you'll work with our experienced technicians and be ensured that your new door seamlessly complements your home. Give us a call at 402-590-5800 or visit us online at doorsplusllc.com. Doors Plus, garage doors and more.
What's better than supporting your favorite radio station and eating delicious Nebraska-made products? Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska wants to highlight you, the listener, on the 93.7 The Ticket Wall of Fame at the store. Stop by the store at 48th and R in Lincoln and see their huge variety of small batch gourmet jerky. Or if you're not in the area and want to try some, go to smokinggunjerky.com and enter code EARLY for 10% off your purchase. It's the ultimate low-calorie, high-protein snack at Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins'. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Back to the YWCA Hour. Here are your hosts, Karen Baldancy and Maisha Essex.
So welcome back to the W. Today we're having a discussion mainly around the awareness of domestic violence. October is Domestic Violence Month. We have in the studio with us today Natalie Roberts-Day, Executive Director of Voices of Hope, and she has been filling us in with very good information on recognizing the dangers of domestic violence, and especially in teen level relationships and how adolescents can find themselves in a situation that may not be the safest and the best. And so as we left before, Natalie was getting ready to share with us some of the work and the involvement and collaboration with the Lincoln Police Department.
Yeah, so I guess I want to start out by saying I think a lot of times because intimate partner violence is really misunderstood, people assume that, oh, if this is happening, call the police is the only right answer. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's really important that we recognize that survivors are the experts on their own safety. And so they know what is going to keep themselves and their families safe. They know how their partner is likely to react. And so if someone is choosing not to involve law enforcement, please just know that letting them lead is the best way. If you are a supportive person looking to kind of help out, you can express concern and things like that. But know that we don't want to place additional feelings of shame, blame, guilt, shoulding on people. And so just being very mindful of that. But we are actually very fortunate in this community that Lincoln Police Department collaborates very strongly with the local domestic violence providers, both Voices of Hope and Friendship Home. So I'll describe a little bit of what that partnership looks like at Voices and kind of what we have seen through that collaboration. So there's kind of two sides to how our partnership works. We will partner with, sorry, I'm going to start over. Whenever a perpetrator is lodged or put in jail for a domestic assault, that officer will reach out to a Voices advocate and give them the information of kind of what has happened, give them the victim's contact information, and we'll try and reach out and just let them know that help is available, see what kind of resources might be needed and try and get them connected with that, and just, walk alongside them for whatever they're needing at this point in that journey. And through that, we are able to also kind of identify areas of challenge or areas of opportunity for growth through those conversations, or even just recognizing, law enforcement is a harder job than I think I gave it credit for prior to coming here. And in particular, domestic violence calls are often the scariest and like the most dangerous for law enforcement officers.
Right.
And so, helping them recognize what the vicarious trauma exposure is doing to them is one kind of piece of those conversations, along with just helping the victim get connected with our resources. And then we also do a lot on the training end. So we help train new recruits. They do kind of role play practicals when they have finished their domestic violence sort of training unit. And so we have advocates throughout the community come and share our perspectives, give them feedback, and it's a great just kind of relationship building tool. We do a number of other kind of training components with them to just make sure the officers are informed. And then we also do systems level work. So we are a part of some different collaborations that work to identify needs related to violence and abuse in the community and then address those. And so there's a lot of different ways that I think law enforcement is showing up to try and do better and to be there to support survivors.
Okay.
And I will also say that it is not a perfect system. Sometimes there are officers who are so caring and so good and so wonderful. And sometimes there are officers who've had a long day and they've been to this house 20 times and they're grouchy about it. And what's really hard is that how that officer is responding is going to either open doors for safety for that survivor or close them. And so we work really hard to make sure that officers are able to talk to one another about what is effective in trainings, because we're experts on working with survivors and victim families and support people, and not on the law enforcement side. So some of that is also explaining to victims what their rights are and also what law enforcement's role is. A lot of times officers might really want to help, but if they don't have probable cause to make an arrest, their job is not to do anything beyond identify if there is probable cause and then see if there is a way to create safety if there's not. And I think that was something that was really hard for me to understand.
Right.
But looking at kind of what is everyone's role, our role as advocates is to walk alongside that person, clear barriers, give them choice. Law enforcement's role is a little different. And so we continue to try and work to bridge those gaps in understanding kind of on both sides.
That's good, because I've seen cases before where, there needs to be like a protection order in place, and or someone, they can't go through with all the paperwork and all of that. And then oftentimes the survivor ends up going right back into that same situation because of all the steps in the system just, kind of works against them.
Yeah, there can be so many complicated reasons why it's hard for somebody to leave, whether that is because of, fear.
Right.
Leaving is often the most dangerous time
Yes.
for a victim. And so, again, trusting that they are the experts on their safety. And, if someone is going back, it might be because they love that person still. It might
Right.
be because financially they are really connected to
Exactly.
and dependent
Yes.
on them,
Mhm.
perhaps by design in that abuser's
Right.
relationship. And so there's a lot of reasons that it takes someone sometimes a couple of times, sometimes maybe a lot of times to
Right.
finally decide to leave.
Mhm.
And I think that's why it's important to keep showing up for those who have been harmed
Mhm.
and letting them know, hey, I'm worried about you. I'm here for you whenever you need anything, day or night. All of those sorts of supportive messages that we would want to hear for ourselves if we were in a dangerous situation.
Right.
And then also, again, just being aware that there is so much shame and guilt and blame tied
Right.
up in all of that.
Yeah.
But anything you can do to just keep those doors open.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with that about, we have to shift the question, right? Because for some of us who have not, been in that situation and we just cannot understand, and you think that
Right.
is helping by pointing out this question of like, why would you stay with him? Why
Right.
would you go back? And that being the main question that we want to know. You
Right.
talked about the example of maybe a police officer who's been there 40 times already and they're grouchy, they're just upset because they probably want to know, why you keep coming back? Why do you keep staying? Why do you put up with this? And while it may, for some people, come from a very good intentions and wanting to like, let's illuminate this for a little bit of the why, we know now that that's the wrong question. And we're putting way too much emphasis on the survivor rather than the person perpetrating when we continue to do that. And then we
Right.
do cause them to have like shame and guilt, and because they may not have the answer. And so I don't want to keep being asked this question.
And they're probably already feeling all of that
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, it makes sense for us to be curious, and it makes sense to be curious because we want to know how we can help.
Right.
But the why question is an inside our heads question as we think about what's going on here and what are the dynamics that I might not be seeing. But that's one to keep to ourselves. And I think a better question is, how can I help? And leaving it at that. And if that person is ready, then follow their lead. If they aren't, then saying, it's okay. I trust that you know that I'm here for you whenever you need me. This is not your fault. There's help available. Giving them our crisis line information, things like that, to just give them a next step, but not expecting that they have to follow your path.
What do you tell somebody? You had said something that stood out to me about, calling law enforcement is just only one right answer, right? There are other ways to connect and get help and resources. And not everyone wants to call law enforcement for whatever reasons. It could be a trigger because, like you said, if you can't prove something and the officer walks away without an arrest, that can be way more harmful, right?
Exactly.
When you're at home. But what do you do? And I know you said as a supporter that you just encourage them and walk beside them and take their lead because they are the expert in their own survival and help and healing. But what do you do if you see that someone is in a very dangerous relationship? And if they do not get out of it, it may not end in their survival, but they are refusing to get the help or call law enforcement. Like, how do you then become that support that will hopefully help guide them or be alongside them as they try to make these decisions? But what happens when it's very, very dangerous and there needs to be a step in of law enforcement, but it's just not what, again, for whatever reason, it's not what they're doing.
I think that one of the things that is really hard about our work as advocates is that there's not a magic wand solution to that. And I guess the thing that I will say is a lot of our work and a lot of, I think, the work that the community can help with is planting little seeds and trusting that if enough of those seeds are planted and enough people are watering those seeds with those little messages of like, hey, you okay? You need any help? You want to hang out sometime? What can we do to help reduce some of that isolation? Then I think that does more than we realize, because if I feel like my abuser is right and I'm worthless and no one's ever going to love me and no one cares about me because that's the message that I'm hearing every day, you coming at me and telling me what I already know, which is this relationship is not maybe the best for me, is just going to shut me down. And instead, if you can, again, just be in space, and it's okay to say, like, I'm really scared. He's going to kill you. If you are in a space for that, but not following that up with, here's what has to happen. And again, I know that is so hard, but I think if you think about it in terms of what's going on, this person is being so controlled that they are feeling genuinely powerless. You coming in, or law enforcement coming in, anyone coming in and saying, yep, you are powerless, let me fix this for you, is even in the best case scenario where, like, maybe that person, the abuser goes to jail and all of those things, but we have not helped either party gain skills to do something different the next time. And so the difference when we give that voice and choice back, and when we can say, hey, maybe you're not feeling it right now, but I know that you are capable. I know that you deserve respect. You deserve to make your own decisions. You deserve that autonomy. Again, those little seeds. And then also just letting people know that help is available. Did you know that there are local community resources? Have you heard of Voices of Hope and Friendship Home? We're not the only door either. The YW is a great example of a space that is building relationships. And once you have relationships, people are going to open up to you about what's going on in their other relationships. And so I think just looking at all of our community as helpers and as people who are able to plant and water those seeds, because one person is not going to rescue that situation, but a community can create a world free from violence if we choose it to.
Yes. I love what you're saying, because what I'm hearing as, and I hope what we're all hearing as people who could potentially be supporters for those who might be going through this, is that community is key. When you're saying, that isolation is where it thrives. And so if they're hearing that they're worthless from that source, and that's all they're hearing, then of course you'll start to believe that. But if you're hearing from your community how you are worth so much more, and treat them, we talked about it with the kids. If your parents are treating you a certain way, right? And then you start to feel that that is the standard of how you should be treated and what you should feel. And knowing that at this point in life that is still so true. And as community, you may not be parents doing it now, but friends, right? You're now taking up that mantle with your friend and people in your community to say, this is how, by showing, it feels to be treated, and that we all should be treated because we are worth it and you are loved. And so continuing to stay connected is what I'm hearing. Stay connected. It's not about do everything you can to not perpetrate like shame or guilt onto the person, but just really be there to help and support by just reaching out. Hey, come over, let's talk. Showing them their worth. Maybe they, for whatever reason, they don't feel it right now. But you being able to showcase that.
Yeah, and I guess one final thing I want to say, because we've talked a lot again, kind of about how can we help support people who are experiencing harm.
Yeah.
But I also think there's so much power at that community level in shifting cultural norms that make it feel okay to hit your partner or to control what's going on in their lives. And so small, tiny acts, like I'm maybe especially talking to my dudes for a minute. If some friend of yours is making a joke that is not cool, saying that, hey, like, not cool, man. That's not funny. Yes. You don't need to give a big lecture or anything. All it takes is taking a little bit of the assumption that everybody agrees out of the situation to maybe invite a little more critical thinking, or at least maybe you weren't the only one who was thinking that, but you were the only one who felt safe to say something. So when you do feel safe in those situations and you are recognizing it, let us know. And also Voices does a lot, like I said, of bystander intervention trainings to help prepare communities for those responses.
Oh, wow. I want to hear more about that. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have Natalie to fill us in about the bystander training. I think this is real critical. Make sure you come back with us.
At Valentino's, we're on a mission for tradition. On every slice, for every bite. Golden baked crust, cooked to perfection every time. Savory sweet sauce that's made from our own secret recipe. Loaded with the perfect amount of fresh toppings and melty mozzarella cheese. It's the tradition that Nebraskans have come to love. From game day to every day. Valentino's. Taste the tradition.
Give your furnace a break with the help of Heartland of Nebraska Windows. Heartland of Nebraska Windows offers a free estimate, full window replacements, all vinyl triple pane windows, and a lifetime warranty of everything, while still keeping their prices affordable. Sounds too good to be true, right? Heartland of Nebraska Windows is locally and family owned with their own team of installers. Give the window experts at Heartland of Nebraska Windows a call today at 402-430-3852 or visit them online at heartlandofnebraskawindows.com. Elevate your home or business with the help of Heartland of Nebraska Windows today.
A1 Automotive's second location is now open at 5110 State Hill Drive, just off of Yankee Hill Road. The new location continues to specialize in all makes and models and provides personalized service as they have for 15 years. With the school year here, A1 Automotive reminds you that college students get 10% off any service, and they offer free tire repair with a valid college ID. Schedule your appointment today at a1autolincoln.com and visit their new location in South Lincoln at 5110 State Hill Drive or downtown at 11th and L.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? You need an attorney you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Call Liberty Law and find out how we can help you get the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. Call the trial attorneys you can trust. 877-42-LIBERTY.
Schwieso Construction is now hiring for skilled craftsmen, steel erectors, concrete workers, and general laborers. Schwieso Construction offers great benefits like premium wages, health and dental insurance, paid holidays and vacation, 401k with company match, life insurance, and disability insurance. They pride themselves on a legacy of 40 years built on integrity and trust. Joining their team means becoming part of a family that values hard work, dedication, and mutual respect. Apply today at schwieso.com. That's schwissow.com.
Since 1983, Fast Mike's Rollouts have been an entrusted and reliable company in Lincoln and the surrounding areas. Fast Mike's handles all sides of construction projects, home renovations, or big cleanouts. With the perfect size dumpster to fit your needs, Fast Mike's Rollouts will haul it all. With same-day delivery in Lincoln, affordable rates, and top-notch service, Fast Mike's Rollouts make cleanup quick and easy. Call now at 402-450-6828 or visit us online at fastmikesrollouts.com. Book your dumpster today. Fast Mike's Rollouts, cleanup made simple.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
Breaking here at the news desk. When you stack Allo Internet, DirecTV, and mobile, you can lock in your price for 2 years. Sources are confirming that when you stack Allo Internet, DirecTV, and mobile, your monthly price drops and you're locked in for 2 years. That's fiber fast internet, premium streaming TV, and reliable nationwide mobile coverage. And this just in, you must switch by Labor Day to secure that locked-in pricing for 2 years. Switch, stack, and save at allofiber.com/stack.
Bring new life to metal treasures with Kaiser Blasting and Coatings. From railings and fences to outdoor furniture and unique antiques, their expert team removes years of rust and weathering, then finishes each piece with a lasting powder coat. Trusted by industries across the region, now local homeowners and businesses can experience the same professional care. Visit KaiserBlasting.com or call 402-421-3559 to request your quote. Restore, protect, and make your metal shine like never before with the help of Kaiser Blasting and Coatings.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Back to the YWCA Hour. Here are your hosts, Karen Baldancy and Maisha Essex.
Thanks for coming back with us. We have been talking today with Natalie Roberts-Day from Voices of Hope, and we have been on the topic of domestic violence. And we are learning so much about some of the cues, what are some steps that survivors can take, the role of law enforcement. And now Natalie's going to fill us in just a little bit, because we started the conversation talking about bystanders and how not to continue to perpetuate violence in any kind of relationship. And then Natalie's going to also give us some positive tips for us to think about as well.
All right. So
for the we talked a little bit offline. We're just going to bring it back in online just a little bit. Natalie talked about the work that they do and the importance of course, identifying with those who've experienced domestic violence and being there to walk alongside them as, they make a plan,
Right.
But we also talk about the perpetrator, right? And some of the work that has to go into that. Like you said, in order for us to see a violent or a violence-free society and community, we have to connect with both. And a lot of times that's uncomfortable thinking about that you have to connect with the person who perpetrated the harm, because you feel like you're taking the spotlight from the person who has experienced it and putting it on. And if that's not the case, we all know that it's enough of a problem that this is an issue. And it's an issue like everywhere.
Issue.
Like it's not even just, this is like we've been taught that this is something that's just a part of the dynamics between male and female, like everywhere, right? And we know it's not just between male and female, just going back into society, but just going back historically, like we've been taught like that's the dynamics, right? And to know that it was legalized for a while, okay? So it's, we know, right? And so you were just going to give us a little bit about what you all do to connect with.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it, so we don't specifically serve perpetrators of harm, but when we're thinking about community responses, I do think it is incredibly challenging to approach people who use violence in particular as with empathy and with curiosity. It's very, very difficult with good reason. And I think that that's partially because we feel like if we are being in any way empathetic, then accountability goes away. However, I think if you think about any time that you have either experienced or been the cause of harm for someone else in maybe a lower level way, that conversation, someone else calling you in and being like, hey, not cool, dude, to that, those are the things that create change and shift norms. And I think that as much as it can feel good to say, I wish all abusers would die or be locked in jail, the reality is, first of all, rarely, if ever, do people come to experience violence for the first time as perpetrators of violence. Often these are patterns that maybe were learned in the past. And that doesn't excuse that. That doesn't change the need for shifting behavior, and accountability can look like a lot of different things. And that accountability, it's not on the survivor to hold that person accountable. But as a community, we can say, hey, not cool, man. And here's how we're going to make this so that this is different next time. And that's complicated, and it's a little outside of my area of expertise. But I do know that when we engage in those conversations, number one, a lot of survivors don't want to leave their partner. They love this person,
True.
oftentimes are good. They just want to see the abuse stop.
The change.
And
Yeah.
so rather than telling them that they're wrong,
Right.
trusting that if that is what they're wanting to see, that is a worthwhile investment as a community.
Mhm.
And again, it doesn't take a lot to be a strong bystander. So if you are seeing something and you feel safe, to either disrupt that situation, do other ways of shifting what's happening in the moment to then connect to future support and resources. I think that's really wonderful, but it starts with just recognizing that it takes all of us.
Right.
And then recognizing that we're not alone. So again, you're able to call Voices of Hope. Our crisis line is 402-475-7273. We're available 24/7 to help both if you are someone who has experienced harm, or if you're worried about someone in your life, or maybe you're a professional and you have a client and you want to know how you could be working with them better or supporting them better, reach out. We're here to help.
Wonderful. This, Natalie, this has been just filled with so much information and awareness. And if any of you out there listening and you need some hope and you want our community to be better and we are a safe environment, reach out to Voices of Hope because they have a lot of information around all these different pieces. We appreciate you so much, Natalie, and all the work that is being done to help make a safe community. Thanks, and we'll see you next time on the W. Karen and Maisha.